Hello. Hello, guys. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cinema Bias. Thank you guys so much for being here. I don't know. Weston is always doing this thing called elbow cough. I don't know what that means, Weston. I don't know what elbow cough means.
That's what I'm honestly kind of a little curious about, because he does it like almost every single time I see him in the chat. Like it's the first thing he does, and
Yeah.
so I get like, but like
I always thought like it means like, does it mean like crickets? Does it mean like you guys should be doing something different? Just tell us what's going on. Just tell me what I'm doing.
Maybe it's like one of those like awkward cough.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. And then I'm like, well, excuse you. Anyway, this is Ben Goddard's in the chat saying this is one of the blind spots. I need to watch this. Ben, you absolutely need to watch this. But let's talk about what the show is. Speaking of blind spots, this is Cinema Bias. I am one of your hosts. I am VideoDrew. With me, as always, and now taking up half of the screen here in a different format, we have joining me my lovely co-host Alex Mack.
Hi. Oh, and I do want to say real quick, Ben, I would actually love to see this movie covered specifically on your cocktails and casting show. Just putting that out there. That would be a really interesting one to do an adaptation of.
Just putting that out in the universe. But for this show, because we might have a little bit of a little fan recasting at the end here. Let's see how this goes. This show is about filling in each other's blind spots about certain kinds of movies and forcing each other to watch films that are outside of one of the other's purviews. We have a Letterboxd account that you can find by going to me or Alex Mack's Letterboxd account. It says Cinema Bias. It's a list of movies that either one or both of us haven't seen, so you can't really tell which one's which. So you can't use that strategically anyway. But this week it was my pick for a movie. Now, before we get to that, I do want to say Streamlabs are open. It's at the bottom here. It's streamlabs.com/VideoDrew. I think it should be like a pinned comment too. Send in a few bucks the way just to make sure this little dial thing, I got this new little donation goal, is working. Just to make sure it's working. Let's get a couple bucks coming in. And if we get to, let's say, 50 bucks, what did we decide? We were going to do an impression?
You tell us to do an impression of someone that you like. Just give us someone to do a really awful impression of, and we'll do it. It could be anyone.
Awful impression. Alex, speak for yourself.
We'll make it fun.
Speak for yourself, Alex. I do incredible impressions, so speak for yourself. I do really good impressions.
You know what? I'll believe it when I see it. Okay. I've never seen you do an impression before.
Oh, well, really? It's because I save my Alex impressions for when we're off air.
Oh, gosh. I see how it is. You LA people and your impressions.
Yeah, I came to LA to do impressions, guys. That's what I came to do. But guys, speaking of Los Angeles, speaking of dreams, speaking of impressions, speaking of it all, today was my pick of a movie. And I went with one of my favorite Tim Burton movies, and that's saying something because, well, I mean, he's done a couple that I like and a couple that I hate, but there's a lot that I really like about him. This might be my favorite. It's between this and Beetlejuice, which I've also, I feel like, made you watch, but this is one of my favorites of all time, Ed Wood. And Alex had never seen it, which is just crazy to me. Alex, can you tell me a little bit about what's your bias? Why did you never check out Ed Wood before?
What's my bias? My bias would have to be very much against Tim Burton. Tim Burton is very much, as you said, he's a very hit and miss director. And we've done Pee-wee's Big Adventure on this show before. I was not a big fan. It makes me so uncomfortable, even though I killed it.
Yeah, you killed it. You killed the quiz. You killed the quiz.
I killed on the quiz, even though I hadn't seen it in like 6 weeks. But I'm not a big fan of Beetlejuice. My favorite Tim Burton movie has been called the most un-Burton movie of his filmography, which is Big Eyes. I love that movie so much for a million different reasons. But yeah, so with that being said, I didn't really know this movie existed until around college. And even then, I wasn't a huge movie fan. So I was like, why would I need to watch a movie about old Hollywood with people I don't know or recognize? It's a biopic with people I don't know. Why would I watch it with the director I'm not excited about? So my bias is just very anti-Tim Burton as a result.
Is it because he's scary? Is it because you think he's scary, like a scary director? Is it because you like spooky things, or is it you don't like the aesthetic, or is it? Help me
It's not
understand,
so
because
much.
Tim Burton was so big on,
Yeah.
like, I was so big on Tim Burton. That was so much my vibe, if you guys couldn't guess. What
Yes,
my vibe was really cool.
I absolutely understand that. He's just one of those directors that he has a very specific aesthetic in all of his films. And it's just I see that aesthetic and I respect it. And I think it's very an interesting choice, but it's not an aesthetic that I'm particularly excited about. I really enjoy Sleepy Hollows. I really enjoy like Frankenweenie and and obviously Nightmare. He's not a director, but he's like a producer, I think, technically.
We count that as one of his movies. It's very funny. Like Peter, like if you outside of the Schmoedown, most people would say that Tim Burton directed Nightmare Before Christmas. I think that's like what most. I'm not trying to be like rude or being like people are stupid. I just think like most people would think that he directed it because it's so got that Tim Burton feel to it, the Leica feel.
Well, it's considered, that movie in particular was considered such a risky film at the time, with such a different aesthetic that was never really a huge thing before. It was made for kids, but it wasn't really a kid-like aesthetic. It was dark, it was creepy, it was not bright and colorful. And it didn't say Disney presents Nightmare Before Christmas. It said Tim Burton presents Nightmare Before Christmas. So that's why we associate it with Tim Burton more than Henry Selick, who actually directed it. And we don't really think of Henry Selick as a director that we love all that much, even though we should, because he's directed some of the greatest animated movies of all time. Coraline. Not going to go into that.
I want to get to J Dog's comment. Danny Elfman's score has certainly helped. I mean, we associate so much.
This movie?
Yeah, he did not score this. Was going to say is he did not score this movie, but it was very famously, and we can get into it in a bit about why he didn't score this movie, why it sounds so much like a Danny Elfman scored film. But before we get into that, did you know anything about Ed Wood going into this? Have you ever seen like his movies on Mystery Science Theater? Did you know he was a real person? What did you think?
Literally, I found out, I didn't know it was technically a biopic until later on. I thought it was like a fictional telling of old Hollywood, a fictional story of old Hollywood. I knew Vampira was real, obviously, but I didn't know, and I knew Bela Lugosi obviously was real, but I thought it was based off of fictional stories surrounding Hollywood.
I could totally see how you could end up thinking that. Okay, so I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock because this is a segment where Alex has 60 seconds to hopefully get past the characters' names and tell me the plot of this movie. So let's get the clock up there. And I give you grief, Alex. It's really hard in 60 seconds to go through the plot and figure out I've done a terrible job trying to tell what movies are about in 60 seconds or less. So don't let me give you too much grief there. I'm trying to like move this around so I see the best place for it. But yeah. So 60 seconds or less. Tell me the plot of this film. Hold on, let me get it.
All right, is the timer up?
We're waiting for it.
Are we getting the timer?
In the interim, guys, I'm still playing with my setup a little bit. So I'm like, if you see me like looking around in weird directions, it's because I'm like looking at the computer, but also like looking all over the place. And let's see, I missed when Johnny Depp took rules like this.
But if you have your phone, I don't have my phone on hand. It's like
I have my phone. Here's, let's get 60 seconds. Here we go. I'm gonna stopwatch on. Here you go.
I will try. Okay. So ready?
Go.
All right, the movie is set in the early 1950s. Ed Wood is like a 30-something young director living in LA. So he ends up trying to, after learning about this article in Variety magazine, he hears about this story that's going through Hollywood called Glenn or Glenda, I think is the title specifically. But he's like, going into it, he's inspired to make it, and he's like, I am the best person for it because I have a lot of qualifications that no one else in Hollywood has. And so he ends up doing it. He makes this movie, ends up being a complete box office failure. And he ends up running to Bela Lugosi down in Hollywood. He ends up becoming best friends with him, just hanging out. And he ends up, in spite of the horrible success of the other movies, he ends up trying to make new movies with a lot of same themes, sci-fi, horror, and they're all completely bombing. And it's all about him trying to become a filmmaker in spite of these horrible reviews.
Okay, and time. Gotta say, Alex, really, guys, how do we think she did? That was a really succinct review of Ed Wood. Great job. That's that hits some of the major markers of the film. That's a good job. I mean, like, honestly, good job. It's sarcastic, but no, great job doing that. Everyone give Alex a round of applause for describing this film in, I think, better terms than I would. All I want to touch on real quick is some of the big themes of this movie, and I'm not sure if we have a segment called that. Let's see. A bold take, actually, is our next segment, but I think, actually, I do have a bold take for this film, which is that I think this is the best movie about love of the game. Like, love of the hustle. Like, I watched this right after having seen the latest season of Better Call Saul, binging it like really quickly over a break at NerdChronics. And this movie reminded me so much of Better Call Saul, and that it's just all about the hustle, all about somebody who's like willing to do whatever it takes, willing to like do whatever it takes, compromise on their own vision, do whatever it takes in order to get their dream to come true. And in this case, it's making it in Hollywood. And this person was so idiosyncratic and so strange for like the person he was at the time. And his movies are so bad that, like, honestly, in another, it's not just the Tim Burton as the writer, it's as the director. It was the writer of this movies. Larry. It was Larry. I can never pronounce his last name. Larry Kazawinski and Scott Alexander. They also wrote The People versus O.J. Simpson, that TV show. They also wrote Big Eyes, and they wrote The People versus Larry Flint. They sort of have a history of writing these movies about these iconoclastic weirdos who take on the world, and like, you know, it's them versus the world. And I really think it's so much of this movie is about the script and how wonderful it is. And Tim Burton is great, and I think he makes the movie seem like very fun and weird and strange. But this is truly a movie that's celebrating a forgotten worst movie director of all time. This person was known for making such terrible movies that the only reason that people knew who this was in the 90s was because Mystery Science Theater had bought the rights to a bunch of Ed Wood movies to relicense them so they could make fun of them on Mystery Science Theater. That's like, no one like was talking about Ed Wood. His movies were bombs. They were like trash. They were like Z-list movies, and they are done terribly. You can watch side-by-side versions of the scenes that are put on in this film and how the scenes in the movie actually go. And what you think is like them being fantastical and being like, oh, they couldn't have been this bad. No, they were like way worse. These movies were crazy. The fact that like he thought that these were good ideas for movies is insane, and like no one wants to watch these. But the fact is, it's his vision, and this is a story about a man who like just believed in his vision and believed that more than anything that like this was going to make it. It's about the triumph of the will. It's about the American, like not that triumph of the will, but it's about the true triumph of like one man's willpower. It's about like the American dream. It's about like delusion and Hollywood, and it just has so much to say that I think it's one of my favorite films.
I definitely understand why it's such a beloved film. There's a lot of aspects of this movie that I really, really admire. This movie is about, like you said, it's definitely I think it's definitely one of the better movies about loving the art form, even though you might be bad at it, even though you might fail at it, or whatever, or maybe you're really great at it, but no one recognizes your talent yet. Mm-hmm. And we have to remember this movie is set in the early 1950s, you know, and I've heard some people talk about, oh, you know, these movies at this time were really interesting in certain ways, because it wasn't until the early mid-60s, that we started getting a lot of directors and filmographers that started going to college with the focus of, you know, filmmaking and film studies. And we didn't really have that understanding of what it takes to make a movie, what makes a good movie aesthetically and storyline, etc., and character development from start to finish. This movie is about someone that loves movies, but has a hard time explaining a lot of the behind the scenes aspects of it. There's entire segments where he's like, you know, I mean, like there's like on parts like, oh, suspension of disbelief, and he's like, yeah, it was daytime in the scene prior, and it's nighttime now, and he's like, well, tough. Yeah, and it's all about just loving the filmmaking process, even if you're not doing it technically correct. Every little bit.
Or like, I think it's about love. It's about like a passion that someone has whether or not like it's not even that. It's like the scrappy way that he's making a movie is so unconventional. He's going to the distributors before going to the studios. He's like telling the distributors to let him direct a movie. And there's so many great scenes in this of like, him going, to the distributor first and then losing all the money and like, trying to gain all the money, bit, hands and knees. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when they're, the studio is like a studio head he's given the movie to, and they're watching it in their giant room and the guys, in their giant theater with just like 3 studio heads. And he's like, wait, what is this? Like, and it's just Glenda, Glenda, and he's watching this. And he's like, wait, that's the guy that was in the movie. That was gave me the movie. And he goes, oh, this must just be a joke. He's like, this must be like the guy from Paramount, like playing a trick on me. And he just starts laughing, and like the way he laughs is like hilarious, like somebody who's just catching up to the joke. And like, of course, the weird tension of the scene, why it's so funny, like the dark humor of it is like he just can't fathom that this isn't a joke, that this is somebody's personal preference and lifestyle. I mean, what Ed Wood was at the time, which was a transvestite, a self-proclaimed transvestite man, like who loved women, who was what we'd consider a cisgendered man, like heterosexual man who liked putting on women's clothing, was so like obscene and considered so strange at the time that like showing up to set wearing these Angora sweaters and wearing high heels was so completely taboo. We can't even like fathom what that would seem like today.
And now, I mean, something to remember is that obviously Hollywood is filled of unusual characters, people doing weird stuff behind the scenes and everything. But we always have this mindset that it's okay. They're artists, they're performers, they're meant to be weird. But in this particular role, I mean, obviously this time where there's this kind of, it's almost, there's certain points where there's a lot of conflict because everyone that's actually involved with the movie outside of his first girlfriend, I can't remember if she's his girlfriend or wife, as Sarah Jessica Parker's character. Girlfriend, yes, thank you. But the thing is, everyone else on the set, all the other, other actors, the cameraman, the crew, they have no problem with it. They're just like, yeah, whatever, do what you want to do. As long as, we get paid and as long as everyone's happy, no big deal. The only people that are, really freaking out about it at any point is Sarah Jessica Parker's character, who does freak out about it during the wrap-up party, and the higher ups, as well as the higher studio execs, as well as the Baptist church people.
Oh God, yes,
Essentially that
the Baptist church, yeah. Well, a lot of this is taken off of Ed Wood's letters. Like Larry and Steve based a lot of this movie on the letters and the book, the autobiography that Ed Wood wrote about himself. And he did have very dark periods of his life, and there were a lot of darker elements to what happened. But since those were not the things that he alluded to in his letters, which were just as aggrandizing and self-promotional as the rest of him, they decided to take a very like optimistic take and read on the script and portray the story as really a love letter to Hollywood and a love letter to weirdos everywhere. Because this is, that's how he perceived his own life. And his relationship to Bela Lugosi, while not exactly the one-to-one that it was in the movie, it really does speak to this sort of like, I don't know, this real beautiful thing of like finding this actor past his prime near the end of his life who thinks he's like washed up and worthless, and like just revering him and truly like becoming a close confidant of his. So yeah, let's get into it. Going into it, I know you had some reservations of just about Johnny Depp in general, as do we all. Johnny Depp is a gross monster person, as we found out. But putting that aside and divorcing that from what this movie is, what did you think about Johnny Depp's portrayal of Ed Wood?
Well, I can't really obviously say if it's a very realistic portrayal of someone like him, because I haven't seen any other Ed Wood films. So I can't really compare it at all. And I haven't seen Glenda personally. I am going to go exclusively off of Johnny Depp's performance in this movie. And I can't really say, oh, it's a great impression or anything like that.
Yeah, sure.
But watching this by itself, there's a real level of campiness in this movie that I really appreciate. But also, it feels oddly authentic in a way that I did not expect. I have a hard time explaining it because he feels like there's entire scenes like his chemistry with the other actors where I'm like, this feels very genuine, this feels very real. But there's other moments of complete exaggeration. Especially when he's like hanging out with Bela Lugosi's character, and that feels very much like a campy movie, like a intentionally campy movie. And there's like little weird little quirks with like his teeth situation and the way he smiles, like that sometimes. So.
Yeah, I would say that like this is one of my favorite Johnny Depp roles of all time. I think, before there was Jack Sparrow, before I believe I think this is before Fear and Loathing. This came out in what, 95? What do I say? Maybe 94. So this was before Fear and Loathing, right? So like before, we'd already gotten some collaborations between Tim Burton and Johnny Depp before, and Edward Scissorhands, and a few things. But this was really, I think, the peak of their collaborative efforts, and I think this is one of my favorite Johnny Depp roles of all time. The way that he embodies this character that talks like he's a 1950, he talks like he's in the 1950s. He's got this upbeat attitude, and everything he says is, well, gee, hun, and like he's got that transatlantic sort of accent, and the way that he just sort of moves is like very. It speaks to something. I think that he brings a real depth to the character. I think he brings a real like life and sort of buoyancy to the character. Of course, Johnny Depp has always been a great physical actor who can immerse himself in character roles like Jack Sparrow and Hunter S. Thompson and Grindelwald. No, just kidding. Like and some of the others that he's played over the years. But he's never struck me as like the best impressionist. So I can't speak to whether or not this is like what we would do if we would get some money. If you guys want to donate through Streamlabs, doing impressions.
Yeah. Please send us a super chat or Streamlabs, and if we hit our goal of $60, then we will do some mad fantastic impressions. So
yeah,
just gonna anything would be appreciated though. But yeah, I mean, something that I definitely appreciate about Johnny Depp, something I think he's really, really great at, is that he's a really great physical actor, and I think his level of physical comedy is actually very unappreciated. Not only is Captain Jack Sparrow, but Fear and Loathing. I actually think there's several moments in Alice in Wonderland that I actually think his character in particular, I think he does play very well. The movie is awful, but we're gonna talk about more of the filmography. It's not great, but him in particular, I think he's just really great with physical comedy. And it's like he's very, in this movie in particular, he's very subtle with his physical comedy, which I really, really appreciate. I love it.
Yeah. So my Weston just mentioned that I just missed a perfectly good opportunity to use the word gravitas. Rocco would not approve. I don't use words like gravitas. I think that those are like boring words. Gravitas is not something that I myself like admire in somebody. Like I'm not like, wow, great gravitas, great being serious, you guys. So whatever to that. I will say that like it's the opposite of gravitas. Actually, he brings the opposite of gravitas to this role. He brings a whimsy to it, and like that really was the best of Johnny Depp's performances, was when he brought whimsy, and not like creepy whimsy like he did in Alice in Wonderland, but like this kind of whimsy when he brought a character to life so much that all you want to do is be on this guy's side, even if he's making terrible decisions, even if he's kind of doing these shady things. I mean, one of the best parts of this movie is that he's just constantly kind of conning everybody. Like he's kind of like he's flying by the seat of his cat. He's low key. He answers the phone in the middle of the night from his own home, going, "Hello, Ed Woods Productions," like as if that was like a professional line. Like he's constantly acting as if he has money, and as if he has got backing, and as if he has funding, and he's trying to make all these hustles work. He puts, in one of my favorite scenes ever, he puts Juliet Landau from you might know her as Drusilla from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's Martin Landau's daughter. We can talk about his performance as Bella in a second, but she's sitting at a bar next to him, and he overhears her trying to break a $50 bill. And he's like, oh, like in his mind, he assumes that she has money. So he's like, well, you want to read my script? Like, and she reads and she's like, oh yeah, it seems like a great movie. And he's like, gee, don't you think it would be cheap to make it $65,000? And she's like, yeah, that seems like a steal. And he's like, great. And she's like, I want to be like the main character. And he's like, wonderful. And he puts her in like the head of the movie. It turns out she had no money. She was just like, she just had $50 on her at that one time. It does lead to my favorite line of being. Sorry.
Well, in order to be a good filmmaker, you have to have an understanding of how money. I'm sorry, I love that comment. Way more than I should. So thank you so much, Troy. I appreciate it. But it's in order to be a director, you need to be great with not only the aesthetics, the actual film, filming these scenes and directing actors accordingly, but you also have to understand the aspects, many aspects of the script, the production, the story development, as well as the budget. You can't be no great director, especially now, can't be successful without a general understanding and cooperation with, people like producers, understanding the budget. And, look at Guillermo del Toro. One of the reasons why he's incredibly successful is that he is able to really understand his budget and problem solve accordingly. And that's what makes a lot of his smaller budget movies so wonderful. But
I do want
that's another conversation.
I want to say I want to spend most of this episode just doing my best impressions of line readings of various quotes of this movie, because I do think it's one of the most quotable. Best.
Let's okay. Can we? How about you do based off inspiration, like one of my favorite lines? Can you do the water one? I'm allergic to water.
Oh my god! Well, that's what I was gonna say. The Juliette Landau line is my favorite line. Where she's like, "Can I buy you a glass of water?" And she goes, no water, no liquids. I'm allergic to all liquids. And it's the best line. I can't actually do it as good as she can because she just says it so tartly. She goes, she's like, no water, no liquids. I'm allergic to all liquids. It's so good. She's so perfect. I love her so much. It's so good.
That line really took me by surprise. This movie is not a funny movie. I do want to highlight that.
Liquids.
Well, thing is, this movie is not like a laugh out loud, jokey, funny. They're not inserting jokes here and there. People are not slipping on bananas. Well, that's what I'm saying. This movie is actually funny, and it's very small moments like that, where it's just like because of the weirdness of it becomes funny. It's not so much about intentionally being funny. It's more about just the weirdness of the situation or the character in a normal situation along the line.
I would argue that the script is written to be very there are laugh lines, there are beats. Sorry, I got the right line wrong. I have it in front of me now, so let me do a line reading. It's okay, I gotta get into character. Let me see, I can do this. Gotta take a girl.
You got it, girl.
No water, no liquids. I'm terribly allergic to them. Perfect. A+ line delivery. Somebody give me a golf clap for that. I'm terribly allergic to them. I want to read every single line of this movie as Ed would. Like, there's such good things here. Let's talk about Bela Lugosi for a second. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever seen the original Dracula or any of his movies, Bela Lugosi's movies. Have you ever seen?
I feel bad because the only, outside of some modern interpretations like Gary Oldman as Dracula, as Luke, what's his face from Dracula Untold, Luke, what's his face? I can't remember his name. He played Gaston, and he played Gaston.
It's Luke Evans. Yeah, he's from Fast and Furious.
Oh, sorry. But the thing is, I have not seen I've seen Vincent Price as Dracula, but I've never actually seen Bela Lugosi. I've seen itty bitty clips of him, a lot of pictures, but I've never actually seen him in like a full on Dracula movie, which actually looking back at now that I think about it, I'm like, have I not seen Bela Lugosi Dracula?
Have you seen him in any film? Like, did you know how Bela Lugosi talks? Like, were you aware, like, what because when coming into this, I know that I mentioned Martin Landau, and you were kind of like, wait, what? So, like, have you seen like a lot of Martin Landau stuff? Because I'm not sure this movie should have won him an Oscar. I'm not sure if it did, but it definitely should have.
Well, from what I noticed, I didn't see any nominations
Mhm.
for Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, or anything along those lines. But this is a movie that, oh, sorry, it did win 2 Oscars, which I did not think about, with Best Supporting Actor with Martin
Oh, so
Landau.
it did go to him.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
it
I
did
saw
win
it.
an Oscar, yeah. So I stand corrected, absolutely. And it did win for Best Makeup. The thing is,
So and it went to
this
him.
movie, yes, he did win. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
It's a I don't want to say it's a very subtle role, because his role is not subtle. He's
Yeah,
weird and it's very
pretty opposite.
physical and exaggerated. And his character's intensely funny and sad for a lot of different reasons. I loved
Yeah,
him.
he's
I
like
loved his
heroin.
character. He was actually my favorite on screen.
He's the best. It was very sad when Martin Landau died. At the moment when he died a couple years ago, the first thing I thought about was, sorry, I'm like trying to get this thing on my face. The first thing I thought about was him, pull the strings, and him, doing the
Yeah.
hands, and you will fall in love with me, you will come to me, to Vampira. And the my favorite line
What
of
was
this entire movie, where someone comes up to him and goes, Mr. I loved you as it's Karloff's sidekick, and he goes, Karloff sidekick, fuck
Boris?
you, so good, fuck you. Yeah, it's the best.
I
Like
was
this
offered
man who's,
really
we
freaking
think of
time.
Bela Lugosi as this huge. I mean, I think of Bela Lugosi as this huge name in the horror world. That he was one of these early. He's right up there with Karloff, and he's right up there with Lon Chaney, Lon Chaney, and Lon Chaney Jr. Like was the embodiment of Dracula for such a long time, and for so many people. That, like, the idea of him near the end of his career being this washed up, sad old man. I'm not sure if he actually had the not heroin, it was morphine habit that he had in the movie. But like, it just adds such a pathos to it, because in the little doggies and like, all these little things that they added to his character to like just show you, I don't know, like how lonely it is to be famous, I think, in Los Angeles, or to be somebody who people used to admire. It kind of reminds me of that Sondheim lyric about, I'm still here, where it's like, even worse, somebody who says, like, you look like this one, or I'm like terrible at like line readings right now, but it's like, hey, aren't you, who's it, like, whatever happened to her? Which is just like the
Yeah.
saddest line, because people are just like, oh, hey, like, you were great in this movie. And then that eventually transitions into being, hey, you look like this one lady once upon a time, whatever happened to her? Like, everyone in this movie thinks Bela Lugosi has died.
I have heard many a conversation apply to a lot of different fields, being like, would you rather have one role and be remembered as the best ever, and people remember you for that one thing, or would you rather do great and then just kind of and gradually get worse and publicly? And I feel like that's definitely a conversation that a lot of actors that are in, specifically in Hollywood, because let's face it, if you were a child actor, a very successful child actor, chances are you're not going to be successful as an adult. It's very, very difficult to transition into adulthood on the big screen. And if you do, gold mine. But and that applies to a lot of other fields as well. But in this one in particular, I think he's definitely one of the more iconic character actors of all time.
Uh-huh.
And I think this really kind of plays on the weirdness of that, because he's obviously he's more than just like an average guy. He was like an already weird guy that just so happens to play one of the most iconic horror roles of all time, and that just adds fuel to the fire.
I think I want to go back a little bit to the specifics, of this film, of what makes this film such an iconic film. When you look at the lines on the page, like I'm doing it, I'm literally just going to the IMDb and looking down like the best quotes. But every single one of these lines could be read, and it's a comedic beat. Like, you just read it, like when it's like, this store is gonna grab people. It's about this guy. He's crazy about this girl, but he likes to wear dresses. Should he tell her? Should he not tell her? He's torn, Jordan. This is drama. Like, that's a beat. Like, that's supposed to be funny, even though it's not written like, here's a setup and here's a punchline and someone slips on a banana. Like, the whole razzle dazzle of it is great. Yeah, like it's just a great film. Yeah, it's like a. What did you think? What were some of your favorite moments of this film?
Some of my favorite moments of the film were actually some of the more quiet and dramatic moments of the movie, but also moments of confrontation as well. For example, two of my favorite scenes in the entire movie was when Lugosi is in the process of being checked out of rehab because Ed Wood learns that he doesn't have money to keep him there during the full recovery process. And it's heartbreaking. I ended up rewatching that scene because I was like, oh man, it's so rough. And he's like physically in pain. He's like, he was napping and then he was reawakened and he's like, yeah, you're all right now. I'm gotta take you home now.
Yeah.
It's a sad conversation that Ed Wood has to have. My other favorite scene would probably be when Ed Wood is being confronted by the Baptist sponsors, essentially, financial backers, and he was like talking about as like, hey, this is the guy we want, and this is the guy we want as the main scene, as the pilot or whatever. And Edward's like, no, as a director, I make the executive casting decisions. And he's like standing on top of something, and he's so to make himself taller, and he's like has like his like big thingy with like.
Are you crazy? I'm the director around here. I make the decisions. Yeah.
I make decisions. And it's like that really funny moment that we don't really get all that much throughout the entire thing. Because I
love the Baptist scene because he's like, yeah, if you're like, I make all these infringements and really come in. Oh, we got a donation. Let's see. I think from Weston. This isn't even coming up here. Let's see. So Weston said, I have a stimulus bias. How soon until we get slices for Tim Burton, Denzel, and Baby Yoda? The child is a TV character, but exceptions should be made. Babe, we got a slice about Denzel. Have you not noticed any of the matches that I've played this season? Like we have gotten Denzel slice. We have a Denzel slice. It's in there. It's horrifying when you get Denzel. And that man's done so many movies, and they've all been so good. But
that's such a hard slice.
And we also have a Tim Burton slice. Guy got the Tim Burton slice, on that match with Bateman. So both of those slices exist. Lucky for you. We can just say your wish has come true. But what I loved about that scene with the Baptist is you think that they're just going to be like being like, whoa, it's all like bad and whatever. And it's like, he's like, do you even know anything about the art of filmmaking? He's like, I'd like to think so. And he's like, the cardboard headstone tipped over the graveyard. The graveyard's obviously phony. And he's just like, nobody will ever like notice that. Like, no, it's just called like acting. Like filmmaking isn't about the details. It's about the big picture. He's like, the big picture. And he's like, then how about when the policeman arrives in broad daylight and suddenly it's night? What do you know? Haven't you ever heard of suspension of disbelief? Like, it's so perfect. Like you said, like this whole movie is just about someone who doesn't actually know how to make films, but is like obsessed with the idea of being a filmmaker and loves the community of it, honestly.
I think he constantly compares himself, and eventually meets Orson Welles at a bar or a restaurant or something.
Yeah,
and he played excellently by Vincent D'Onofrio. I was like, this is like one of the perfect impressions I've ever seen in my entire life. This is like he looks so much good. It's so great. It's so subtle as well. The thing is, it's mentioned in one of the first scenes of the movie. He compares himself to Orson Welles, and he's like, Orson Welles made Citizen Kane when he was 27.
By the time he was, yeah.
I'm already 30 years old, and I feel like I'm like not doing much, and I'm not growing, and and he brings up not Citizen Kane, but he brings up Orson Welles' career to compare himself to a few times throughout the movie, and it's really kind of funny because Orson Welles, he is still today regarded one of the greatest directors of all time, but also he has one of the most interesting and disappointing filmography.
Wait, go off, Queen. How you say that?
Filmography? Well, Orson Welles. Ooh. Orson Welles never made a film that. Oh, Thank you.
I'm going to read your comment in a second. I don't know what the alert box is doing. I'm going to read your comment out loud in a second, movie. Don't worry. We'll get to it. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, it's kind of funny because Orson Welles, when we think of Orson Welles and his films, we think of Citizen Kane and we think of Transformers maybe as like his last role he ever did, and just a few other movies. But we don't think of, although we consider him one of the greatest directors of all time, we don't think of him as one of the most consistent or the consistently best working directors at the time. We just kind of think of him as a director that just kind of fell apart almost by the end of it a little bit. A lot of people I know that, and like based off the stuff that I see, and I'm like, he tries, but
I want to put this to the audience. Who here is Alex talking about, who has gone around saying, poor Orson Welles, he did not do very much with his career and his life.
Outside of Citizen Kane, I mean, outside of Citizen Kane, can you name like 5 movies? If your thing is,
he did War of the Worlds. He was a radio play, but he did the very famous War of the Worlds that confused everybody. First of all, 5 movies.
That was a radio show. That wasn't a movie.
That's the thing. I'm saying it's not a movie, but it was one of the most famous stunts in the history of filmmaking at the time. I can't name.
That's not relevant to filmmaking.
Wait, no, it's relevant to his career.
But it doesn't have to do with filmmaking. I would honestly argue
what does radio have to do with filmmaking? Well, at the time, radio was like the other huge thing at the time. That'd be like saying, what does like the internet have to do with filmmaking? It was a radio drama. It confused everyone.
Yeah.
Let's see. I want to read Movie Fanobi's comment real quick because for some reason this was not on screen. Let me test this little. I don't know why the alerts sometimes do this to me. It drives me crazy. By the way, shout out to NerdChronic and this like little table I have now, which is super helpful. Let me see if this would come up.
That Eric dude, he's too shabby. He's okay. He's okay.
Okay, so now it's posting up. Okay, so Movie Fanobi donated $20 saying this now works. So Movie Fanobi saying Happy New Year's and love to Drew and Alex. I haven't watched this movie in a while. Hold on, I have it right here. I haven't watched this movie in a while. Let's see where it is. Where is it? Off to bed, was late, rearranging the kitchen and liking like a weird cooking demon. I could microwave to a bedroom. I could move the microwave to a bedroom a la Drew. Lol, video Drew is one word. Oh yeah, it is. It absolutely is. It's not in my bedroom. I know I posted a picture of my microwave seeming to be an innocuous place because my microwave is right on top of my clothing stand. But my clothing stand isn't in my bedroom. My clothing stand, it just happens to be in the garage, like my bureau or whatever. But since we have a couple bucks donated, that means that we both have to do an impression now. So guys, tell us who you want us to do impressions of, both me and Alex. I'll see if I can muster up some of this great impression skills that I've been doing all night. I actually am good at impressions. No one should think that I'm not. I'm really good at impressions. Just not.
I'm not good at impressions, but I'll make a good bad impression.
I'm great at impressions.
I'll make a fun impression. How about that?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. It's not VideoDrew without technical glitches. That's why we're here. Exactly, man. It's not. The gods of technology hate me. I don't know what I ever did to them except like give them more money. But it's like I pissed somebody off somewhere along the line, and nothing will ever work, technologically speaking, for me. But yeah, like somebody tell us an impression to do, we will do it of anybody, like anyone living or dead. I will do it of somebody who I don't even know. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to get there.
Run through it, yeah.
If I can do this late. Oh.
Okay, but seriously, Vincent, is that looks just like Orson Welles.
It's so good.
It's so excellent. Good. It's such a subtle performance as well. Like I see him and I see this and I'm like, that's Orson Welles. I don't see Vincent D'Onofrio, and then I'm like, wait, that is.
It's not even just the how he looks. It's his voice. He does I can't do it. I can't. Well, I'll do it. I do it because the impressions are supposed to be out tonight. But he does the Orson Welles where he's like, he gets that really deep voice and he's like, no one believed I'd make a movie after Citizen Kane either. You know, and it's just got the perfect bravado. Should have gotten an Eric in here to do. Sorry, go ahead.
Just saying, Mark is in the chat. Mark, our boy Mark Wake.
Oh, what? Yeah, Mark's in the chat, yeah.
What's up?
He's like, yeah. I bet Mark might do an amazing impression of Orson Welles, but like, yeah, he's like, tell me about it. I'm supposed to do a thriller for Universal. They wanted Charlton Heston as a Mexican. Now, talking about, Alex, to your point, Touch of Evil, one of the most famous movies of all time.
Never heard of it. Never
Alex,
heard of
it. That you've heard of Touch of Evil does not.
Never heard of it. I've heard of Third Man. Is that by him?
Touch of Evil is one of the most famous movies of the time period. It had the longest tracking shot to this point. To the point where they could make a reference in this movie about him making Charlton Heston a Mexican, and everyone in the audience understands that's Orson Welles talking about Touch of Evil. Back me up here, Hoik. Did Orson Welles ever do a great movie?
You have to remember that you guys are like film buffs. You guys grew up with movies. However, I did not grow up with classic movies at all. I am watching classic movies for the first time this year. I watched The Philadelphia Story for the first time like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I didn't watch Wizard of Oz until I was like 20 years old. Okay, just to put it in a little perspective, this is a very new experience for me. I didn't see Citizen Kane until this past summer, and so.
But that's not. But when you say whether or not, I mean, that's fine. But when you say that Orson Welles didn't do very much with his career, that's not true. That's just like factually not true.
You're totally true. It's just that when everyone I know, including the film community, I know that talks about Orson Welles, 95% of the time, it's referencing Citizen Kane. It's not referencing some of his other work. I do love War of the Worlds. It's actually my favorite thing that he's done personally, but I see him in reference to Citizen Kane.
What about his acting? What about his acting? Like, we're talking about like The Lady from Shanghai. We're talking about like all these things. As you mentioned, like Transformers or whatever. But like he was at the time the most famous director who ever lived. I will say that, like, yes, the thing about Citizen Kane was because of the controversy around it, and because it was him trying to bring down, a major newspaper publisher and stuff. He kind of hit his zenith with Citizen Kane. And I think that's what the comparison is in this scene, is that like he feels like he, after Citizen Kane, never quite achieved the level of fame and notoriety and was as well respected. But that's because he created something so revolutionary and something so amazing in Citizen Kane that it was hard for him. You have this sort of this curse of hitting your peak when you were 23 or 30 or whatever.
The first film. Oh, that just, as a creator, like I will never, ever put myself in the same tier league, anything along those lines, personally, as someone, compared to someone that's like a filmmaker, that is their true love, where filmmaking is their thing. This is what they love to do, that they would do it even if they weren't paid to do it. I can't imagine hitting that level with your first film. And sure, you make really good films or whatever might be directly following for years to come, but it never quite lives up to the first film. Or people will always be comparing it to the first.
And again, I don't want to get too sidetracked off here, because I think both of us are a little bit, if I can be honest, talking out of our butts, because we don't know that much about Orson Welles. And like, it is true that like, I think that Touch of Evil is an incredibly famous movie. His work, like doing Othello and Macbeth, were infamous. Like these were huge deals at the time. However, Touch of Evil, and Citizen Kane is just, it's considered the best movie of all time. So like, how could anything past that, whether made by him or anyone else, compare to it? Like if the thing that you did is considered the best thing of all time, then nothing you're going to do after that's going to count. But like, it's funny that like that the whole interaction he has with Ed in that movie is just perfect, because it's Ed meeting his hero and seeing that even at the top, it's the same delusion of grandeur. It's the same idea that the studios are out to get me, the same idea that like, that he's the little guy and he's trying to force his vision on the world, and the world's just not ready for it. It's almost like they're kindred spirits. Now that meeting never took place in reality, but it's just such a great scene. So much of this is, again, about the American dream. Like whatever it chooses to be, it's about faking it till you make it. Like that's literally what he did. He faked it all faked that he was a filmmaker. He faked that, you know, his identity. I mean, the idea that he, in this movie at least, I'm not sure if this is how it happened in real life, didn't come out as a transvestite, someone who liked to dress in women's clothing, until it was needed to like suit the purposes of him getting a directing job. Like he tells the distributor that he wants. Oh yeah, let's see. Oh, that's another $24 from Style Moose. Thank you, Style Moose. Wait, Style Moose, what impression do you want to hear? You guys have to put in the impression that you want.
Style Moose had mentioned a few comments earlier in the chat, which he's like, love the part with the fake octopus. That was also one of my favorite scenes. I actually forgot to mention that with the Bela Lugosi character in the thing. He's just going in the water. That was a great scene. Okay, now you're just showing off, Mark.
No, I mean, Mark's not showing off. Mark's showing
that. Okay, impressions. Okay, Drew, you gave one impression earlier today. So would you like to give me an impression? I saw a handful in the chat, but
well, let's see. Yeah, I haven't checked it out in the chat. Like I'm really, first of all, NerdChronic, I'm loving this desk because it's not allowing me to like be able to check out the comments from like a closer area. So let's see what people are saying about it. Let's see what they want.
Pretty cool fella. What can
you say, Eric? NerdChronic, he knows the practical gifts.
Okay.
He also got me a toothbrush, which
all
is
right. I feel like I need some longer fingernails.
Okay, let's see.
Press-ons, casually press on nails. Okay.
Let's see. Okay. What do we have
right.
comments?
I need to swizzle.
VideoDrew do an impression of NerdChronic or Christian Harloff. Wow.
All right, no, screw it. I'm gonna do one of Eric. All right.
Really? Not Christian?
I'm gonna do an impression of NerdChronic of Eric.
Okay.
All right.
Let me see how accurate this is.
All right. I'm gonna swivel. Yeah, you know, I really think, you know, I really work hard at Schmoedown, but you know, they're pretty cool. You know, they're fine. You know, everyone's here pretty cool. Drew's pretty cool. I like her. You know, she's hanging out, her and I a lot. You know, she makes pretty good sandwiches.
Great impression. A couple things. NerdChonic's never said that he likes me very much, and NerdChronic has never had a sandwich made by me in his life.
I was like picturing you like eat it, like making like I don't know, because I know like you make good food, and so I'm like, because I always like picture him like every time I see him like leaning back in a chair or swiveling. Like I never see him like sitting still.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can do it. Let me see if I can do my NerdChronic. Like my NerdChronic. I live with a guy. I should know what it is. It's like he'd be like, huh, yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I can get on that right away. Sure. I think that's doable. And sorry, what'd you say? Sorry, what? Whatever you want. Like, no, whatever you want.
Your deadline's tomorrow, midnight? Easy.
Yeah. I just got a lot of work to do right now. I'm sorry, I can't. I just got a lot of work to do right now. Sorry, that's my impression of everything that NerdChronic has ever said throughout this entirety of living with him for almost a year now.
This is the most on-brand thing we've ever done.
Wait, Salad Moose is asking for the best Bela Lugosi impression ever.
I don't know, Bella. I've never seen a Bela.
I did a Bela impression. He goes. Wait. I'll find the whole line so I can do it. It's okay. He goes. It's the best. Yeah. He goes. Karloff, sidekick. Fuck you. Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit. That limey cocksucker can rot in hell for all I care.
All right, I can do an impression of Bela Lugosi's character.
How dare you bring up that asshole Karloff? You think it takes talent to play Frankenstein? It's all makeup and grunting. Of course, Dracula requires presence. It's all in the eyes and the voice and the hands. Bullshit. I'm ready now. Roll the camera. That's my best Bella. Sorry, we missed Sean's comment. Sean donated $20 and said, hold on. I got rid of the page. Sorry, go ahead. What you were going to do yours. Bring up yours and I will find.
What's mine? Right. I don't know.
That's your Bella?
No, am I supposed to do it right now? Oh, am I supposed to do it right now? Oh, my bad. Okay, I was like waiting for. Okay, never mind. Okay, you dare bring up that asshole, Karloff? You think it takes? Oh wait, sorry. I'm trying to read the line. You think it takes talent to play Frankenstein? It all into that makeup and grunting? That's all I got. That's all I remember.
Karloff? Sidekick?
I remember him doing this a lot.
Sorry?
Like,
Can you do an impression of what's his name? That big guy, or the big guy that they have in that movie? What's his character's name? Fuck, why can't I remember it? Tor Johnson. Oh my God, Tor, the big wrestler guy, where he's like
get a more severe brow bone.
Yeah,
like, you know, like I like that. That's, like, what lines does he say? I can't remember any lines he has.
Wait,
what's his character? What's his name even?
Tor Johnson.
His name is Boris.
Tor Johnson.
Tor Johnson with a K?
No, with a T. T, like T is in Tiny Tim.
I thought you said
corn
with like
T-O-R, like T-O-R, like Tor browser. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like an asshat.
What Sean asked for was that he wants to hear an impression of I'm from Boston, and that you're going to do an impression that you're from New York, which would be offensive. But I will do my Boston accent. But why don't you? Do you want to go first? You want me to do my Boston? Is anyone here from Boston?
I don't like what.
Let me think.
I don't know New York accents at all.
Yeah,
can I do research first? Can I find out what an accent, New York accent sounds like?
Yeah, New York accents like New York's like how I talk, like a New Yorker. Like it's like what's her name? My cousin Vinny, although she's from Jersey. Like it's like Marissa Tomei is a New York accent.
I don't know what that sounds like.
Like you had little tiny Tia in the forest, like Mr. J. It's like what's Harley Quinn talks in like a traditional what you think of as New York.
Okay. Oh, okay. Like, all right.
You got that, NerdChronic.
All right. Who am I being? Okay.
You're gonna be me. No, you do your version of a New York accent, and I'll do my version of a Boston accent.
All right. Let's have a conversation.
Oh wait, we have to have a conversation. I was gonna do that whole speech from Good Will Hunting, but okay, yeah, let's have a. So you catch the game the other day? You catch the big football game with all the Go Hoosiers or whatever? But yeah.
Let me tell you. Okay, so I was watching the game with all of my brothers, and they were telling me about all these guys with the pigskin, and they were going to run across the field, and I was like, who are these really sexy guys? And these are like really tight pants. And I'm
no, you're wicked pissed.
No, you don't understand. Okay, you know what? Let me take off my hoops. I got to take off my hoops.
That's
okay.
Look, we're gonna need you to go. We're gonna need to go down.
Okay, you don't know me. Okay, you Boston girl. You don't know me. Okay. No.
Coming from Southie, you don't want to mess with us if you come from Southie. How you like them apples?
Oh, that's so cute. You and your Boston. What is Boston? What does Boston even do anyway? Please. Okay.
I don't even know if you guys have Stella over there or like cider or chowder, but like we got Bill Burr and he's our favorite. So, go Ben Affleck. He's the best Batman. Go Red Sox. Go Patriots.
Wow. You have chowder, big flippin' doo-wop. Okay. You can do like a creamy based soup. Who the flippin' cares? Okay.
Yeah.
We have the pie. We have the noodles. Okay. We have the sauce. That's all we got. You in Boston? Oh, I'm sorry. You guys, you put some tea and some water. Who the flip cares? Okay. We don't care. All right. No.
Oh yeah. No. You're real cute.
No. I'm not gonna waste my time with you Boston asshats. No.
Okay. No. And scene. That's how you did. People will say rules. I think we should move to Hollywood and audition for doing that. I think my biggest note to self is learn more things that are from Boston. Like, I don't know anything I don't know what Boston is. I didn't believe Boston was a real place for a really long time, or that people could talk like that. I saw Good Will Hunting and thought it was like a fantasy movie about like some pretend place in America where people spoke like that. You did an amazing job. How much do you need to do? NerdChronic, you guys keep donating and we'll keep doing accents. Okay? How about that?
No, wait. If we get to 100, you know what I would actually love to do? You know what we should do? Actually, dedicate an episode 2 is do an iconic movie monologue and
okay, how about that? Yeah, for $100, if we get up to $100 tonight, so we're at 46. If we get up to $100, we will each do an iconic movie dialogue or monologue in your impression of choice, as your impression of choice. Yeah,
it wouldn't be like a 10-minute monologue or anything, but it would be something we can easily put a go.
What I was about to say, is there any great monologues in this movie? But one of the things that I really love about Ed Wood and about Larry and Steve as writers is it's never a monologue. This is the opposite of Sorkin. It's the opposite of like speechifying. If you look at some of the best quotes in this movie, they're all people talking back and forth to each other. Like no one has more than one line. Everything's rat-a-tat-tat. It's like very My Gal Friday. It's very like it harkens back to like the it harkens back to like what Hudsucker Proxy was doing. It's like very, see, I'm a fast talking Creole gal and somebody tells us something and, oh, you would say that, but I would say this. And it's all very rat-a-tat-tat and going by very quickly, but it's all interactive. It's nobody getting up on like a stage and just talking to an audience. There's none of that, whatever they did in Steve Jobs or whatever they do in like Shonda Rhimes TV shows. I don't know why that would be the thing, but I don't like that in Shonda Rhimes TV shows, everyone's given the space to like in scenes, just never talk over each other and just sit there and listen while someone destroys you for 10 minutes and then be like, well, I see your point. Here's a 10-minute long counter argument. No one talks like that in real life.
Yeah. I've mentioned it before, specifically whenever we talk about what's his face, who did Molly's Game, who did American President, who did a million ones.
Sorkin.
Yeah, Sorkin. There's a lot of aspects where I'm like, I love his writing. I love listening to it. I actually would love to read a book written by him. I think that'd be really, really interesting.
Aaron Sorkin would be very self-grandiose, and it would be a lot like probably like autobiography by Sorkin. Is just all about how like he didn't mean for the emails to get out from Sony, like the whole Pascal hack. Like that's crazy.
Right. I feel like it's so not real, but that's like, again, that's a whole other conversation. I feel like we've had a handful of times in the past, but going back to this one, I feel like the script in this movie, I think you actually touched on it earlier, is that it's not a super mega funny movie, but there's a handful of funny moments. There's funny moments in the movie, and that's because of just because of the characters are interesting and they're funny, but they're not doing like I said, they're not doing like typical jokes and things like that. It's a very subtle form of comedy, which I appreciate.
I did not say that. That's your argument, and I respect it and I hear it. It is the opposite of my argument. My argument is this is a hilarious movie that very intentionally has jokes in all the beats, or like every single line of this movie. You can just like go like this and just throw your finger down, and the line is supposed to be a rat-a-tat-tat joke. Like it is a setup and it's a punchline. It's a setup and it's a punchline. Like it's all jokes to me. Yeah.
I can definitely see that. Thing is, with this movie in particular, just like with the water line, I am allergic to water in all liquids line. It's really, there's a lot of really funny quotable moments like that, and because of the intensity or the seriousness of the delivery, it makes it funny. And it is again, I don't feel like it's left out funny consistently throughout the whole movie personally, but there are a handful of moments like that where, because of how not as funny compared to previous scenes it was before, it just the hilarity of that moment in particular.
Really? Worst film ever, you say? Well, my next one will be better. Hello, hello. When he's on the phone, everything that you're hearing him say is just like hilarious. Like that's a humor line. Really? Worst film ever, you say? The worst film you ever saw? Like, really? Worst film you ever saw? Well, my next one will be better. Hello, hello. That's like him trying to get money. Like, that's hilarious. It's the best. Or like, I mean, anything. Anything that Bill Murray did. We didn't even touch on Bill Murray in this movie.
Oh my gosh, he was
incredible.
fantastic. Bill Murray, he definitely he could have taken his character in a very exaggerated direction, but his character is very subtle. He's not so much quiet.
Alex,
but he is funny.
Alex, do you know what subtle means?
Yes, I know what subtle means. He's not doing this. Oh my gosh, guys, let me tell you about this time where I went to Mexico and I was like, oh my gosh, these
doing that.
Mexicans were like everywhere. And
Mr. Penis. He is talking with a lisp. He's absolutely, he's not doing a mean character, but he's absolutely doing a queen. I mean, as opposed to Ed Wood, his character is a transgender, what we would consider today to be a transgender person. He's trying to get a sex change, and he's goodbye, Mr. Penis. Like he's absolutely, he's more so than Ed Wood, like a caricature of somebody. I'm not sure if that's a real person that ever existed. Bunny Beckridge. Yeah, and it's like, yeah. That's right, not Mr. Penis. He goes, goodbye, penis. Like, it's so funny. I love him. And at the end, oh God, and NerdChronic was watching with me. At the end where he's like, he comes back and he's like, how was the trip? And he's like, oh, awful. Like, my boyfriend was killed in a car accident. They lost all the luggage. And he's like, if it wasn't for these cabana boys, I would have been totally lost. It's so good. Bunny Beckridge, read a name. Oh, God, his character is hilarious. Let's see, I'm saying.
Oh, Lippin. A.
I didn't know Ohio has accents. I lived in Ohio. I didn't know Ohio has accents. But then again,
as a Midwesterner,
I don't think I have an accent.
We got accents down here. Down here in the Midwest, we do.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, for some reason we are at 65. I don't know why this little tip thing is showing the wrong amount, but we are at 65. Let's see. Yeah, sure. I don't know why that's saying the wrong amount. Let me put up the other goal. We have like 2 goal alert boxes here. So let's see. Guys, this is such a production we have going on, such a high quality. It's basically an Ed Wood film that we have going on here. Well, here we go. Oh, actually, we have 8 more. Here we go.
I do actually agree with you in the chat where I don't like, I think I do think he is a very funny character. He's fantastic. And I think he is very obvious in the way he kind of goes about things. But he's not as a caricature, I guess, from that I kind of expected, essentially. Because I expect, especially with, with someone coming from an actor that was like in Ghostbusters and things like that. I didn't expect him to portray his character to not be a caricature. Essentially, he was funny, but in a very natural way. Like, I feel like I know people that are funny like this. He's not a caricature of someone that I feel like I only see in movies. I feel like I know legitimately a person like this.
Well, I think what you're saying is that, like, it's not that he's not funny or anything. It's that he's not doing something that feels like it's unrealistic. He's a character and he's being absurd, and like this character is larger than life, much like Ed Wood, much like all the characters in this movie. He's larger than life, but it doesn't feel like it's just a caricature. Like, it's not a two-dimensional person. Like, you feel the warmth, you feel the friendship, you feel like that he's a human being, just a human being who, like a lot of people in Hollywood, is like a little bit like a Queenie, like he's a little bit over the top, he's flamboyant. I mean, especially for that time period, to be running around being like, goodbye, penis, like that loudly. I mean, which our next line is like, shush, like, be quiet, like,
No, it's a wrestling match. Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about, like, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to real quickly, I do want to mention that although this movie really focuses on how the kind of grandeur that is Hollywood and the other, essentially, I do think this movie, it does like kind of focus on the other side of Hollywood in terms of Los Angeles, the aesthetic of 50s Los Angeles with the architecture, the cinematography of the areas outside of the studio and everything, and I really appreciated that.
Well, Tim Burton very famously went to the UCal, or the Disney Art School, whatever it's called, and was like a Disney animator, and like went to that program, and like I think he has a real love for Hollywood and for that period of time. Clearly a nostalgic person. I want to talk a little bit about we talked about a little bit before the movie, and I want to make sure that like we're on the same page about sort of like you could ascribe a wokeness sort of agenda to this movie and say, well, transvestitism isn't like what we call it anymore necessarily, and the whole idea is sort of, for its time was pretty forward thinking, but does not, in retrospect, that's not how it's not the terminology we use. It's not considered taboo to dress in women's clothing. But I think what this movie is there's just like a lot of love, and there's a lot of just a sense of, it's almost like what Ryan Murphy aspires to do and never really pulls off, I don't think. Although his use of Larry and Steve is very interesting for the People versus OJ, because Ryan Murphy often creates stories like this. OJ wasn't one of them, but like about community, about disparate weirdos coming together, and like the idea that we're all monsters in some fashion, and we all are outsiders, and we're all strange, and like what you can find in terms of making your own sort of family. And I think that's the really beautiful part of this movie, is that like there's that line about where he's like, wow, like Ed's like the most like open-hearted guy I know, or like he doesn't judge anybody, least judgmental guy I know. And he's like, well, if I did, I wouldn't have any friends. And it's that's so like that. What a perfect sentiment.
Right. Yeah. He's definitely, his character in particular, and the way he goes, he's a character in that's actively in the process of maybe perhaps not transitioning, because we don't really hear him talk about how he actually obviously wants to be a woman. In this movie in particular.
Bill Murray?
No, sorry, Johnny Depp's character.
Oh, well, he's not trans.
Yeah, Ed Wood's character.
He's transvestite.
Exactly. He likes to dress up like a woman, but he's like, he's mentioned, it's like, oh, I love women, I just happen to dress up like a woman, and that's totally fine, and that's amazing. And the way he feels, and there's points where, in order to feel more confident, more in control, that's what he does. He puts on he puts on the women's clothing, and he goes out and starts filming, and there's like a handful. There's like a few executives that were like, no, you need it. What? No, what? And you're like, what the heck are you doing? And he's just like, yeah, I'm just doing my thing. You can leave, but this has nothing to do with you. I'm just like, I'm my own studio, but I'm, and it's such a really, the way, the confidence and the casualty, the way it kind of goes about it is something that I really loved in this movie.
And that he's not ashamed of himself, that he
Exactly.
He understands that society doesn't agree with what he's doing, and that he has to hide it to a certain extent. Like his idea that he's like, when he tells the guy, he's like, I actually parachuted in World War II. I was wearing women's underwear at the time. Like he's like, I wasn't scared of dying, but I was scared of getting hurt, and the medics seeing my panties. Like that's beautiful. Like there's something about this movie that this is a man who has no inherent shame or guilt or hangups about who he is, and he's not confused about his sexuality. He's not repressed. He does not care who knows it. He's totally comfortable in his own skin, and it goes beyond his desire to wear women's clothing, and it goes entirely to how he makes his movies and everything that he does. He is somebody who feels comfortable and maybe has delusions of grandeur, and maybe has like delusions of being a brilliant auteur when he's actually a two-bit hack. But the fact is, like, he feels totally confident in himself, and like I think that's what we want. Like that's what we want to be. Who doesn't want to just be totally like feel like they're totally righteous in everything that they do, and have no doubt in their mind that what they're doing is the right thing, and that their life was supposed to be meant for greatness.
Well, the thing is, something I thought was actually kind of interesting, just bouncing off that thought process, was that Ed Wood, and throughout the entire time, it's very rare, and Emily just pointed out in this movie that whenever he's filming, he's like, "Hey, I have 25 scenes to shoot tonight. You get it done in one go. You have one opportunity." And one of the cameramen says, "Hey, are you sure you don't want to shoot another one?" And he's like, "No, it's perfect. Let's go." And it's clear that the cameraman knows, but Ed Wood doesn't know. He doesn't realize that even if you do have a perfect one, you always want to shoot a few just in case. And
oh yeah, that idea that he's like, nope, it's great. Like you've done it. Like, and I think that's speaking to the fact that like this is taking a story that is somebody's life, which could be viewed as a very tragic of life. Like Ed Wood's life, you could see as a real so you could rewrite this movie, and it's a real tragedy. It's somebody who thought he was destined for greatness, but he was actually destined to be nothing but a joke. Like that's what he ultimately ended up in. His legacy up until this movie was that of a joke. Like he made the worst movies of all time. Look at how bizarre it was that he like made this movie Glenda. Like what was he even thinking? Plan like these movies make no sense. They're terrible. Like what a joke of a person that this is. And he liked to wear women's clothing. Like what a ridiculous human being. But instead of that, the movie is about really just about like beauty and triumph and warmth and friendship and believing in yourself and not letting the world dictate your life story. I see Mark says that he want us to do the Bela Lugosi's final speech. You could do that. Let me save it for the end here, and I can do it with an accent, or you want me to do it just?
Can you post in the private chat?
No, he posted in the comments. He's anywho.
Oh, okay. It is in the comments. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I can do that. Let's see.
Hey, you go first.
Okay. See, I gotta read the two things. Home. I have no home. Hunted, despised, living like an animal. The jungle is my home. But I will show the world I can still be its master. I shall create a perfect new race of people, a race of atomic supermen who will conquer the world. That's my Bella.
Well done.
Thank you.
Can I do it like while holding my tab?
Sorry, go ahead. Kitty.
She doesn't want to be held right now.
But I want to get to the audience. Like, what was your experience watching this movie? And like, this movie, I remember immediately grabbing me, and I loved it. Like so much. I think something about it spoke to me immediately. It's not his strangest film. It's not his it's not his craziest, kookiest film. It's not even his most Tim Burton-y film. Like as we mentioned, Danny Elfman did not do the score for this movie. They had a big falling out right before this film, so he got Howard Shore to make the movie. And you can tell from that opening credit sequence, it's such a fuck you to Danny Elfman because it sounds identical to a Danny Elfman soundtrack. It's like more xylophones, more, it's just the most Danny Elfman Oingo Boingo opening score you can imagine. And then it says like music by Howard Shore, and you're like, oof. I feel bad for Howard. Like, how did Howard Shore feel about like having to just do music as Oingo Boingo, like as Danny Elfman? That must have like really been man, I don't want to get in the middle of this.
Well, it's actually funny you say that because when I heard the score, before his name popped up, I was like, my first thought was, this doesn't seem like typical Elfman.
You thought that? That's so funny. Because I thought
that was my first thought. I was just like, especially coming off of like hearing Beetlejuice and Pee-wee's Big Adventure and everything, I was like, this doesn't seem like Elfman.
You've got a good ear, man, because I heard it and it's like boo boo boo, and it's like xylophone being like blink 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 blink. It sounds just like
that's my gut and
that little thing. It's like boo boo boo. Yeah.
You want to hear this impression? You want to hear it?
Wait. I want to get you doing another impression. We'll wait till we hit the $100. If we get $100, so we're $11 short, and we'll find another impression for Alex to do. But I do want to have you do it as Harley Quinn.
Oh, thank you. Oh wait, can I do a Harley Quinn monologue?
Yeah, I want you to do a Harley Quinn monologue. We'll get Kelsey in here to judge.
What monologue does she have? What monologues does she have? I don't know.
Oh, wait. Sean just tipped saying, hold on, let's see. He's just saying, I don't know why am I thinking. Somebody tell me about Streamlabs. What is it that makes the alert box disappear? Like it stops working after a while? Like it works for the first couple things and then I have to like re-put it in. Somebody who knows Streamlabs, tell me what I'm doing wrong here because this is starting to get on my nerves. So Sean donated saying, Alex reading lines from the Avengers Endgame as Thanos in her New York accent. We want you to do Thanos.
What?
Thanos. Yeah, do a good Thanos speech. Up here, I'll find a Thanos speech. Or somebody in the comments about this.
Wait, what? You want me to read as if like Thanos was from New York?
No, you're gonna do Thanos as Harley Quinn. That's the deal. You're Thanos as Harley Quinn.
I'm so confused. It's like, is this what Helena Bonham Carter was like when she's like, hey, you are Bellatrix being played by Hermione Granger that's pretending to be Bellatrix Lestrange. And she's like, got it.
I was doing a good job with that. I feel like that was good. That Bellatrix stuff was great.
Awesome. Great. Wow. Gosh. All right.
So, wait. Somebody find me in the comments what we're supposed to be doing here. Let's see. I don't know why this isn't working. I'm really going crazy here with this alert box issue. But let's see if I test it right here. No,
Harley,
nothing.
let me do it.
I just did a pretend donation that would have to go away soon, hopefully. But that's nuts. So somebody find a good Thanos monologue. I'll stop messing around with this because
guys, post it in the comments.
Yeah,
let's hear this Thanos monologue.
Let's hear it.
That I'm gonna do in a Harley Quinn accent.
Okay, I will stop about it. My alert box is broken. Thanos monologue. Okay, I have it. I think it should be like the everything is equal. I think that's the best one. Anyway, Alex, do you want to do any wrapping up thoughts about this film? Like, what do you end up thinking about it?
Some of my big my wrapping up my thoughts regarding this movie is that this movie would definitely be in the conversation of my favorite artist biopics, but also would probably be in the conversation as some of my favorite movies about old Hollywood or just about Hollywood in general. And it's a film that's like I said, it's a funny movie without being the Ghostbusters or Porky's or Bridesmaids or anything. But to me, it's very funny and it's in its low key way. I know it's not like to me. I know we kind of talked about how it's like it's laugh out loud, but it wasn't for me. But I was like, oh, hey, that's funny. I had that. That was my kind of funny that I had watching it. But I definitely think it's a movie that I'm excited to share with other people about. And it 100% would probably be my second favorite Tim Burton movie.
Ooh, after what? Oh, Big Eyes?
Big Eyes. Big Eyes. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I love Big Eyes. Another movie about an artist. I believe it's
so I found a monologue for you. Great. Let's see.
Awesome.
Let's see.
Wow.
I think I got one. It's not a huge one, but I'm posting it right here.
All right, let me read through it real quick.
Why is it not posting? Hold on. Post. Return. Oh, for some reason it's not. Let me refresh the page. Man, look, this is happening, guys. The tech is just failing me. Someone wanted me to do an impression of Christian Harloff, and I feel like my impression of Christian Harloff is just me freaking out about the tech not working. And just being like, oh, I see. It's just too long. Here we go. Let's see. Boop. And then there's a second part. There we go. Those are the two lines.
Sorry, I'm reading the monologue right now. All right. Okay. All right. Let's. Guys, I'm so sorry ahead of time Drew, Sean, I'm so sorry ahead of time for this.
You should be sorry.
All right. All right. You ready? Let's do this. All right. You cannot live with your own failure. That's why where did that bring you? Back to me. I thought by eliminating half of life, half of it would thrive, okay? But you show me that's impossible. And as long as there are those that remember there will always was and always will be those that are unable to accept what can be. They will resist.
I'm like,
resist. Oh my gosh, the nerve. I'm thankful though, okay? I'm thankful. All right, because now I know what I must do. I must do, okay? I will shred this universe, flipping down to the very last atom, okay? I will, and then go through the stones that I collected to create me a new one and to be teaming with life, and it knows not what it was lost, but all that was been given, okay? It's gonna be a super grateful flipping universe.
Yo. That was next level, Alex. That was next level, Alex. That was incredible.
I'm just
wow, Alex. I would donate a couple more bucks in this chat. By the way, and by the way, the money from this week is going to be going towards getting ourselves an official. I've decided this, Alex. We're going to be putting our money this week towards an official graphic logo, so we can put it up on so we can have it. Because I'm not getting anywhere making that logo. But my God, that was so good. So guys, I have another $15 I'm going to throw in. I can't throw it into my own StreamYard, so I won't let you. But I'm throwing in another $15 to have you read the second monologue that I posted in the actual comments, not the private chat.
Okay.
So good. I'm throwing in another $15 of my own dime.
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Okay. All right. Let's. This is a lot of pressure.
It's so good, Alex. You have no idea. Like, did you not hear how good you were?
Oh, it's all about the fingers. Okay.
No, it's not
nothing.
It was
the whole thing. You don't deserve the stones. Okay, you don't get it.
Do it, Alex. Okay, do it. I'll pull it up.
Like, I'm all nervous now. All right.
Just pop it, and then there's another part I'll bring up too.
All right. Okay. All right. I know what it's like to lose, okay? To feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail. Nonetheless. It's frightening, turns the legs to super duper jelly. I ask you to what end them? I didn't hear to do the last part. What was the last part? Oh. But you know what? Destiny arrives all the same. And right now, it's here. You know what? Or should I say, I am.
Oh my God. Oh God. So good. Alex, would you like a part of my movie? Oh my God. Let's see. That was incredible, guys. I like all the teeth in the gum.
That's all. I'm all red now, guys. If you can see this, look how red I am. I'm like so red right now from blushing.
That was amazing. I can't do that. Let's see. So Mark says, so here's just bring it back real quick to Ed Wood for a second, because technically that is what our show's about. We're just to read all the Ed Wood stuff as Harley Quinn. God, your Harley Quinn is phenomenal. Someone clip this out for Kelsey. Mark saying, weird but true, in the early 80s when interest in Ed Wood was first getting big with midnight shows of Plan 9, Warren Beatty convinced Paramount to acquire and reissue Glenn or Glenda. It still flopped. Because it was not a movie. Remember, the movie that he was given by the distributor You got a movie? No, but we got a poster. It was called He's a She, or it was like He's a She, exclamation point. And then the movie that he makes is not about and this is like, again, like one of these interesting, like little, like fortuitous, not fortuitous, but like it's a little predecessor of things to come. The guy's like, you didn't make a movie about a he who wants to be a she. You made a movie about a guy who likes to wear dresses. Like, he understands that there's a difference between a dude who wears sweaters and dresses up in high heels and somebody like the freak of nature, as they call it, who's a man that wants to be a woman. These are two separate things. And like, I don't know, it's so good. So yeah, Glenn or Glenda probably flopped because it's not salacious enough to be like maybe today it would be like a way interesting movie for us to see. Like, it would, of course, like that movie today made by a better director would be a great film of somebody like coming to terms with their non-binary status or deciding to wear women's clothing out in public, or dealing with the blowback of the family. I mean, that's what Glenn or Glenda was about. But of course it would still flop because it's not a salacious film about like a guy turning into a chick. Question: how does this compare to The Disaster Artist? Do you mean like how does the Ed Wood movies compare to Disaster Artist? Oh, or no, you're asking how does this movie compare to The Disaster Artist in terms of they're both celebrations of somebody who is an awful filmmaker, and it sort of celebrates awful.
Something I remember is that The Disaster Artist focuses on I can't remember what his name is, but he's at least like with his individual social circles, he's considered a good actor for some reason.
No.
But and they're like, oh no, I mean like within his like acting classes and stuff like that. Remember?
No, that's not true. People did not think that.
Well, at least in the movie, and at least in the movie, they're like, yeah, he's so vulnerable. He's great.
No one thought Tommy Wiseau was a good actor ever.
I agree. He's not a great actor, but in that movie, I remember a handful of scenes in particular where they're like,
Johnny thinks he's like an interesting actor, but like he's terrible. But I think it's more about, NerdCronic's question is more about how these movies stack up in terms of both having similar themes. How did someone who's had a massive failure, whose movies are considered a joke, but how are these both like movies about the triumph of that and the beauty of that? And I think they both stack up like equally well. I think the sad thing about The Disaster Artist is really that like James Franco got canceled before we could really see whether or not he was going to win an award for that movie, because that movie, which is based on the book that Johnny wrote, whatever that guy's name was, the one that was played by the brother, Greg Sestero. Johnny's the name of the character from the Room. My God, I'm so dumb. So Greg Sestero wrote, it's truly just about like this guy who, again, like Ed Wood, is totally delusional in his belief that he can make it in Hollywood, that he's anything like that, and he's even weirder than Ed Wood. I mean, this guy is totally non-sociable. He does not have any friends, really. The production is tyrannical and horrific. But the story about like one man's delusion of grandeur being bigger and being able to shape reality, I think I like this a lot more than I like The Disaster Artist, because The Disaster Artist is ultimately not as sympathetic to its hero or to its main person, nor should it be. Nor do I think like Tommy Wiseau is as fascinating of a character as Ed Wood was, at least by their interpretation of it. But I agree that they fit the same archetype. I would say more NerdChronic to you. How does this hold up against Better Call Saul? Because we were watching that and we saw a lot of similarities in terms of the characters in this movie. Johnny Depp's character and Odenkirk. I've
only heard of Better Call Saul as a TV show. Is it a movie?
It's a TV show. No, it's a TV show. I'm just saying, it's a TV show, but it's a TV show about a guy like who we find out later is Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul, but he starts out as Jimmy McGill, and he's just a hustler. Like everything he does is just like a sort of a con. Like he works the legal system, but it's all just sort of like a magic trick, and he's always kind of like pulling things out of his ass and sort of like, things work because he like is deceiving people, and he's sort of like hiring all these children on the side to like pull off these stunts. And at first you're like, whoa, how did this even happen? How is he getting away with it? But it's all like an illusion. Like it's all just it's all just magic, you know, it's all illusion. And it's just sort of about him like being this sort of outsider who's constantly looking in and seeing the world as like us versus them, and seeing the world as a place that doesn't accept him, and he has to lie about who he is, and he has to deceive, and he has to put on these shows to like, you know, trick people. And ultimately, I think this is a much more uplifting story than Better Call Saul is going to turn out to be. But I did see the similarities there. But yeah, so ultimately, Alex, I'm glad you liked the film. I love this film. I think, you know, does it hold up? Absolutely. In my mind, I think it's a great movie, and I think it is a lot about inclusiveness and says a lot about those kind of things. Do we want to do a quick recasting?
Sure. I mean, yeah, why not?
Or should we like wait for that on? Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
You go first.
You know what? I just realized it might be a little dicey, so I might not want to recast it because, again, like Johnny Depp does such a great job, and I don't want to recast it and do a thing of being like, well, I want to recast it with like, you know, so and so, and like it would just be. I'm not even sure if this movie would be made today in the same way because of it. Just, you know, because of the themes of it are just beautiful, but the wording and the time period that it's set in, you know, has different ideas about gender and sexuality than we do now. So I don't know. Maybe not for this week. But guys, we have a movie for next week that's Alex's pick.
Yes, we do. Oh my gosh, guys. Next week I thought we would go in a very different direction. We haven't done an animated film in a very long time. I think since Triplets of Belleville, I want to say. And so I thought we would kind of bring it back, and it's come to my attention that Drew hasn't seen very many Studio Ghibli movies. And so as a result, I thought would go with the only Studio Ghibli movie to ever win an Oscar, specifically for Best Animated Feature, would be Spirited Away. Yes. Oh, yeah. Now I know a lot of people say this is their favorite Studio Ghibli movie, or maybe it's in like their second or third favorite. But the thing is, this is definitely one of the more iconic Ghibli films. Internationally speaking, even if you're not familiar with Ghibli movies, I know a lot of people that are still familiar with this movie, Totoro, and Kiki's Delivery Service, even if you're not familiar with the slew of their other movies. It's pretty fantastic, and I cannot wait to see you watch this movie. It's gonna be fun.
I'm really excited. You know, it's this. I can tell you guys right off the bat, this is not something where I have like a huge bias against it. I guess my thing is just I just missed it. You know, I missed the whole Studio Ghibli thing. We can get into that. I'm really excited to see it. I've always been one of these people that like wish I knew the Studio Ghibli references. Because I love like the art. I love all the pictures. They're always so creepy. Is this the one with the weird ghost thing in it? The ghost looking dude, or is that like
no face? He's right there. He's right there on the poster.
Where?
No face. Right there.
Oh,
right there.
I see him. I like that guy. He seems cool. He seems like a good time.
Yeah. Hayao Miyazaki, he did direct this movie. Obviously, it's called Miyazaki Spirited Away. But there's a lot to dive into this movie. It's on the surface level. It's about this, you know, girl going on this adventure. However, there's a lot of underlying themes that Miyazaki has later revealed is like the true story behind it. And it's really it's so specific to Japanese culture, which I thought was very, very interesting to kind of hear that interpretation of the story as well, which I loved. So I'm excited. It's going to be so fun. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. And where can people find you, Alex, if they need to?
Yeah, you can find me right here. At Rio_AlexMac on Twitter. Give me a follow right there. I'd really appreciate it. And you can also find me being part of the Call to Action podcast. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing my long-awaited return to Schmoedown, and it's going to be the free agency-themed episode. We're going to have Frank Janish going against his new rival, David, from Repeat the Question. And so they're going to be debating all questions relating to the free agency draft and all the free agency listings that was recently posted by Christian. But yeah, we have a Patreon now, so definitely check that out. But yeah, please, that'd be much appreciated.
As for me, you can find me here. This is my channel. You can go to VideoDrew. Please give a like and subscribe and comment. Do all those fun things. You can find me over my Patreon. That's patreon.com/VideoDrew. I'm VideoDrew, one word, across all social, so you can find me anywhere there. On Mondays and Thursdays, we do the VideoChronic Pop Culture Quiz. I know I missed the last yesterday's. I wasn't feeling so well, but that's at 9 p.m. It's 20 questions about one specific movie, franchise, or TV show. So that's really fun. We do Cinema Bias here at 8 p.m. on Tuesday nights. Tomorrow, I'm restarting my study sessions. So that's for the Patreons. That's done over a Zoom call. It's going to be about, I think at 5 p.m. I'm not sure if I said 5 or 6, but check the Patreon. It's going to be awesome. Those are really fun. Alex is there a lot. We have a really good time doing it. We're going to have a couple of new faces joining us. So if you're part of the Patreon, you can come in and watch, help us study and take some quizzes, and it's really fun. Otherwise, you can find me on Sunday nights live in the dark with VideoDrew right here at 9 p.m. where we interview guests. It's like Between Two Ferns meets Space Ghost Coast to Coast. It's my kayfabe show. And other than that, you can catch me on Twitch, which is something I'm going to be doing more gaming stuff. So check that out. Also check out The Catch Up over on Rotten Tomatoes. It's my new show that I'm writing for. And other than that, that's about it. So yeah, guys, see you next week. Thanks for everyone for joining us. We're gonna is what I've decided. And yeah, we'll be seeing you soon. Okay, say good night, guys. Good night.